the story, the main part of the story is always the same. Don't get confused or don't get frustrated by external circumstances that you cannot influence. Look at the parts that you can influence, and then you have control of your life, your business, whatever. So don't waste your energy on things you cannot change.
Welcome to the Location Independent Startup Show. Here we discuss business, lifestyle design, personal development, and much more with some very special guests and experts who have been there and done that. Learn how to live life on your terms with me as your host, British entrepreneur and investor, John Cavendish.
Okay, so welcome back to the Location Independent Startup Show. Today I have with me Esther Jacobs. Esther is an international TEDx speaker and author. She's given over 1,000 keynotes and is author or co-author of 30 plus books. Her workshops have helped over 400 entrepreneurs to write their book. And I know her through some of the network we're both part of as one of the original digital nomads, having been location independent for over 15 years. Hey, Esther, thank you for coming to the show.
Hey.
Well, great to have you here. And we were just talking before we started that last time we talked, you were in the US and now you've just arrived back home. How was the journey?
Yeah, a very strange flight, with empty airports, everybody wearing face masks. Having to fill in a health questionnaire that they didn't take in the form afterwards. So like everybody's trying to do the right things and nobody knows what they're doing. And I'm getting on another plane this weekend to fly to Italy, which will be interesting as well. The flight has been canceled 3 times and I just booked a flight to a different city, rented a car to be able to drive to the piece of olive orchard that I bought in February, just before the whole Corona thing started.
That's amazing. I mean, it seems like it almost sounds like when you said you bought some olive orchard, like you're going to go and live in the countryside in the middle of nowhere to hide from Corona, but you bought it before Corona even started.
Yeah. So it's just like a hobby project. I really like to own some land, and I had some land in Mallorca, but it's becoming too expensive. So I found this little area in Italy where I could buy this plot for almost nothing. And I think it's a nice investment, but also the feeling to own some land somewhere in the world, especially with the type of life that I have with no bases anywhere and very fluid. And the feeling of owning some land somewhere is really something special.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think we talked about this before and I was like, I would love to buy some land in a similar place. Like it'd be great to have a community of people because I feel the same thing. And I'm in Vietnam where land over here is $10,000 a square meter where I am. So having a piece of land somewhere else would be amazing and actually owning something somewhere in the world.
Yeah, the funny thing is the little village where I bought something, there's other plots available and nobody's buying. So the prices are really low. So there are some friends who've asked me to look out for a piece of land for them. So actually this community thing could be reality, that in around a certain village, we have plots of land and we build like the little Airbnbs or writing cottages or apartments or tiny houses, and then we can just visit each other and help each other with the olive harvest and things like that. It would be fun.
Yeah, very cool. And my sister lives in Italy as well, so I could get her to go down, but I'm pretty sure it's in the south, isn't it, your place, not in the north?
Yes, very much in the south. If Italy is this boot, then I'm in the heel of the boot, like this little strip of land with sea on both sides and away from everything. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, I've never been down there. I've only ever been at the very, very top.
Isn't it weird to talk between location independent entrepreneurs about owning and buying a piece of land?
in the south of Italy. Yeah. I mean, because everyone, I don't know, not everyone, but I think part of our community is quite like, we don't do the things that other people do, like, owning land, owning houses, not necessarily owning houses, but everyone wants to be in the new assets, don't they? Cryptocurrency or something where you can get an obnoxious amount of return as fast as possible. Because
I'm not like that at all. Maybe it's the younger nomads who do that, because I also see the risks. I'm turning 50, so I've been through a few ups and downs in the economy. And when something looks like it's never going to end, you logically know that it's going to end. And also when you're in a depression, that's also going to end. And in my opinion, real estate, owning like physical assets, is for me always the best option, because you could always actually live there. There are stones or land, you can rent it out, and you have the added value increase that will happen over time if you have enough time. And the whole crypto thing, I know people are making a lot of money and I know a lot of things are happening there, but it's not tangible. It can also disappear. You know, if something happens in the world, it may just disappear. But then also that's where the big gain can be, you know, because it's a risk, you can earn a lot of money. So everybody chooses an area where they feel comfortable. And it's not about the possible money you can make, but it's also the sense of being in control where others don't feel being in control. And that's where you can get the most benefit.
Yeah, the certainty and security that comes from, you know, this is what's going to be there in 50 years. But I think it's really interesting what you said about cycles, because all of us, you know, I mean, not all of us, that sounds really weird, but, you know, if I'm 31, I've only ever been in this ridiculous bull market for the last 11 years, 12 years. And I've been reading Fooled by Randomness recently, a book. And what it says is basically the people that look the smartest and the people that make the most money are the people that strategy fits the current market. And so as soon as the market changes, they're the people that, you know, blow up immediately because they look like they're the smartest person in the room, but in fact, just their ethos, their personality fits the current market. So yeah, I really believe what you're saying is right.
I know some people who actually save up money and they invest when the economy goes down. They know it will happen. So they don't count on the good economy that people get used to, but they know there's going to be a dip, and then they buy companies, real estate, whatever. And then when the economy goes up, they make a lot of money.
Well, that sounds awesome. And yeah, I've been kind of following that strategy since I started making money a few years ago. But I've also missed out on the ridiculous gains that have happened in the markets in the last, was it 3 years? Everything's over doubled, 2.5. It's absolutely crazy.
Now the cycle will repeat itself and you'll get a second chance and a third chance and maybe even a fourth chance to do that.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, I hope we all get many chances.
Yes.
So let's dive in a bit. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself, over and above my introduction? Because I know you've done so much in your life.
Yeah, I'm originally from the Netherlands, and I've never worked for a boss. I've always been an entrepreneur. So I've been an entrepreneur for almost 30 years now, I think. Wow. Tried lots of different things, failed in lots of different things, and basically found out what I'm really good at. And I only do things that I'm really good at. So some people think that I'm good at everything, but you don't see me do the things that I don't like or I'm not good at. So that's how you develop your strong sides instead of trying to get your weak sides to be average. It's two different ways of looking at those things. I've traveled a lot. I've been to over 100 countries. And at some point I felt that I also wanted to give back, to do something, good. And I came up with the idea to collect all the leftover foreign currency when the euro was introduced in 2002. And so I collected all the leftover coins for charity, and I collected 16 million euros. At that time, it was $25 million. Now the conversion rate is a little bit different, but 60 million euros that went to charity. And so I could tick that off, I've done something good.
16 million euros for charity.
Yeah, and then, of course, you find out that charities are not very transparent about how they use the money, and there's a lot of money disappearing. So I also set up a donor organization to bring more transparency into the charity world. Then I got tired of charities, and I was very disappointed actually in what I learned, and I wanted to get away. So at one point there was an ad on the radio. This is the last day to register for Survivor, the live, the TV show on an uninhabited island. And I was just thinking of getting away. So I registered, and I didn't even realize that I would be accepted and ended up on an uninhabited island. So I actually participated in Survivor, which taught me about it. Oh man, that's another, do you have another hour?
Do you have a YouTube video for that I can put in the show notes?
I do. Actually,
that'd be awesome.
I do.
I really want to see that.
It's a European Survivor show, so it's in Dutch, but there are subtitles. So I'll send you a link. It was incredible. There were such discussions and injustice, and basically it was a repetition of what happened in Holland in the charity industry. people saw me as a threat because I was put in a special position. They were hiding me in a cave for 2 weeks. And when I finally got to meet the others, they were like, who are you? What are you doing here? And why do you have this special position? And it was like a copy of what happened in the charity industry. So it was very insightful for me. And I learned a lot about group dynamics and about how you can try to fit in, but people will always feel that you're different. And then you might as well stand out and fully stand for who you are. So that's the things that I learned for all these crazy things that I did. And then I started writing books about everything that I experienced. I was hiding away on a Caribbean island to write my first book, and I fell in love with the biggest playboy of the island. So I also wrote a book, Have You Found Your Mr. Wrong Yet? And that's another way to develop your sense of self, you know. You can blame other people. You can blame Mr. Wrong. You can blame the economy. You can blame your partner, your boss, whatever. But in the end, you are the one who's in control and who makes the choices. So all these experiences added to my toolkit of how to deal with life, basically. And more, I started helping other people navigate through their lives and their challenges. And I do that through keynote speeches, TEDx speeches, books that I write, workshops, retreats, one-on-one coaching. So I don't really have a plan. I just go with the flow. And when I get a lot of questions about something, I organize something to help people. So people started to ask me, how do you write your book so fast? And I started organizing from idea to book workshops. And now they're online workshops because of Corona. And I organize writing retreats to help people write their book in 1 week. In 3 different locations in the world. And of course, with Corona, you know, I had to cancel them. So I do the retreats online with workshop series. So I just, you know, nothing can really surprise me anymore. There's always a solution. And sometimes the solution that you find is even better than your original idea.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. Like I didn't know about Survivor. And so the big question that comes to mind when you share that is, how do people, you say people ask you questions and then, you know, you kind of gauge from your audience of, you know, what you want to do and who you need to serve. So how do people follow you and how does that work?
Well, I started doing business and being visible long before the digital age. So before the word digital nomad, before, you know, anything was digital, I was already traveling and doing like being an entrepreneur. And actually this charity collection, I called it Coins for Care. It has taught me about free publicity, how to find hooks with journalists to get your story published, because that's how people knew that there were collection boxes in the supermarkets and banks and things like that. So if this collection lasts for a year, then you need to find a new angle every week, every month, instead of repeating the same story over and over again. So this experience in free publicity before the digital age actually gave me the skills that I needed to be visible in the digital age. So at some point I transferred this to social media, and I keep getting the feedback that people who follow me, they don't see any sales posts like buy my book or join my workshop. I give away tips and experiences and inspiration. And then if people want more, they know where to find my workshops or other offers. So I have people who have been following me for 15 years. And sometimes they have like a fight on the internet. Well, I've been following Esther for 8 years. Well, I've been following her for 12 years. And it's just amazing to see that. And I get emails from people who say, I've been following you for 15 years. And now I'm thinking of writing my book and I want you to help me. So it's really a long-term investment, which doesn't feel like an investment because it's just me being me and helping people. But in the end, the loyalty that you create and the engagement and the connection you have with your audience or followers, that's what my foundation is. So no matter what I do, I organized a Cruise Your Business cruise from Spain to Brazil a few times. And people join the cruise just for the inspiration and just to be around me and to get inspired, whatever they want to do. Or they join my writing retreat without wanting to write a book. They use it as a focus week to work on something else and just to, you know, to be around inspiration. So often I don't know what my product is or what I'm going to do next, but for example, I feel like walking the Cinque Terre, the 5 little villages in Italy that are connected by mountain paths. And I was just thinking, I'm going to plan to do that in April, and I'm just going to invite anybody who wants to join me. And then it will be an inspirational trip, and I can teach them whatever they want to learn from me. But I'm going to be doing something that I want to be doing. It's not selling a retreat that I have to organize first or invest. I'm just going, and then probably some people will join and we'll have a nice trip and I'll make some money and they will get inspired. So it's a win-win situation. And that's what somehow always happens, or what I'm always looking for. That's
amazing. So after your first big epiphany with the PR, and you raised the 16 million euros, which is absolutely amazing. What was the next step you took using that knowledge to launch the next product after that? Because that was before you had a big online presence, I guess, after you raised the money. So what was the next product after that, and how did you use that to kind of get going? Because I think it's quite difficult sometimes when someone's come as far as you have, and you have people following you, you can put out a post and then people want to come with you and do it. What I'm trying to understand is how you got there.
I got asked to talk about my experiences. So I think after the charity project, I became a speaker. So first they wanted me to talk about the charity experience. So raising all this money for charity and the charity world. But of course, that story gets old at some point. And if you're not a charity or related to charity, then companies don't have a lot of interest, to hear that story. So I kind of turned it around after a while. I was still sharing the same story, but the title was how to get big results with limited resources.
And then suddenly, more business-centric title.
Yeah, and it was also a crisis time, beginning of the millennium. And so every company had a conference where they had to announce the cut of budgets. Yeah. So they would say to their employees, you're going to have 20% less budget, but you have to achieve more. And so people would naturally protest. But if they put me as a keynote speaker at the beginning of the conference, sharing, the coins for care, no excuses, anything is possible, think creatively, then people would be inspired. And then the 20% budget cut would be a challenge, and everybody would have the vocabulary to talk about it. And then every other experience I had, even the survivor experience, I would incorporate into my speeches. And then people would start asking me, could you write a book about this? And then, do you want to teach me how to do it? So the workshop started. And yeah, ever since I've just been reacting to questions that I get. So I don't think, I'm going to build this business, I'm going to put this product in the market. I just react to questions. Then you don't need to do market research. You don't need to invest. I just test things out on social media. Hey, I want to go on this cruise. Hey, I want to organize a writing retreat. Hey, I want to go walking in Italy. And then if nobody reacts, no problem. I haven't made any investments, nothing lost. And if people do react, then I just set something up and it's already existing. It's already out there.
That's amazing. So what that makes you think of is, so you were on the speaker circuit for a while.
For many, many years, I think 20 years. Yeah, I was one of the...
a little while.
Yeah, I think I was one of the most asked speakers in the Netherlands, because a lot of speakers are business speakers and they're from the business world. And with me not fitting in any, box, I was always like the joker or the green card, and people couldn't. How do you say, when you put an expert from a certain business area
put you in a box
group? Not only that, but if you say you need to do it like this, they say, oh, but we've already tried and our business is different. And I say, I know nothing about your business. I'm going to tell you a story about a Mr. Wrong, about Survivor, about charity, about coins. And it's a buffet of inspiration. And just like in a buffet, some people want to try new things. Some people want to heat their plate with things they like. Just pick whatever you like. And at the end of my speech, I would ask them, what part of my story can you relate to your story? What are you going to do different tomorrow? And then the audience, will make the connection with their daily business. And if one person starts speaking, the other one adds, oh, but for me, it's also this. And oh, I really like this part. So the audience is working to make the connection instead of me telling them what to learn or what to remark. And that works really, really well. And it's also
like
easier.
Gestalt. So like kind of, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Gestalt where, you know, you're telling a story and it's what the other person's narrative in their own head, which is connecting them to your story. And,
I don't know about that, but it sounds similar. Yes, it sounds very similar. And it works. I've given over 1,000 keynote speeches. And because I'm traveling so much, it's kind of going down a little bit because I'm never around when they have their conferences and stuff. But it's also a natural cycle. I feel I still do some speeches and I really enjoy it, but it's not like I'm doing 3 a day anymore and traveling, you know, back and forth, and you become kind of a robot sometimes, you know, automatic pilot.
So were you part of a speaking organization, like a keynote speakers of X place?
I was registered at some of those, but mostly the requests came word of mouth. People who would move from one company to the next and say, I've heard you speak 10 years ago and now I'm organizing an event. Can you come to my event? So really people who have been following me for a long, long time. And that's how you build up a reputation and a brand. And even though what I do changes, the story, the main part of the story is always the same. Don't get confused or don't get frustrated by external circumstances that you cannot influence. Look at the parts that you can influence, and then you have control of your life, your business, whatever. So don't waste your energy on things you cannot change. It's a very cliche thing, but I have so many examples of so many different settings, and storytelling, of course, is a big part of what I do. And anything is a story.
That's an amazing soundbite. That's definitely going to be our soundbite for this podcast.
Great.
Well, thanks, Esther. So, do you mind me asking a little bit about kind of the business of speaking? Because I think most people don't understand, you know, the amount of money that changes hands for speakers. So, you know, how would you go about, you know, charging for a speaking engagement?
Yeah, if you want to be a speaker, first you have to be really, really good. If you apply for an agency and they find a gig for you and you perform like mediocre, they're never gonna recommend you again. And there's this 10,000 hour rule. Malcolm Gladwell wrote about that, the story of success. If you want to be a good singer, if you want to be a good fighter pilot, you have to have 10,000 hours of experience. And as a speaker, just start speaking at family events, school events, business clubs, Rotary clubs. They always need speakers. So not only you learn to share your story in a way that's interesting for your audience, but also you can do it in a way that you're not focused on yourself. Or what am I going to say next? How am I going to say this? Do I remember this correctly? But you're focused on your audience. What do they want? What do they need? And I don't prepare my speeches anymore. I just empty myself. I get on the stage and I take a question or something that has been said before as my first line. And from there on, it develops itself. And people can ask questions. They can interrupt me. Something can happen in the area where I do the speech, and I can tie it into my story. And that enables me to be present and to be in the moment and to be connected to my audience to give them what they need. And I see a lot of speakers who can be experts in their topic. They're focused too much on themselves and they lose the connection. And that's what makes it a good speaker, to be able to connect and to react to what's happening instead of roboting your story out on stage.
And being too in your head, yeah.
Yeah, so practice until you feel so comfortable with your story. They can wake you up 3:00 at night, put you in your bathrobe on stage and ask you a question about any topic, and you can share a story about that topic.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that comes from practice though, doesn't it? That comes from actually knowing deep inside you what you would say in that situation. And it just comes to you, doesn't it? It's like sales or anything else. You know, once you've done it enough times, when somebody says something, it just rebounds out of you.
Yeah, and you know what questions your audience are going to ask, what objections they're going to have, what, you know, what cases they're going to present, and just so you feel comfortable in any situation and you can provide added value to your audience in any situation. And that's also when you start getting testimonials or reviews, not Esther is a good speaker, or I enjoyed her speech, or I would recommend her. But then you get testimonials like, this thing she said really changed the way I do business. Or after Esther's speech, we get 10% less demotivated people, or we work with 20% less, but we get 30% more results. That when you get testimonials that are really like that, then you know you're developing into a speaker who really delivers added value instead of just entertainment.
So are there any speeches that really stand out in your brain, in your mind? Like anything that was like the craziest thing that ever happened at a speech, or something that really
I have some funny examples. The most special things, of course, are the TEDx speeches, because I've given lots of speeches, but TEDx is something special and you have to do it in a limited time. And actually, during my first TEDx speech, it was in Curacao in the Dutch Caribbean, fireworks started going off outside. And they don't have beautiful fireworks, but just the fireworks that make a lot of noise. And at first, I was thinking, okay, just ignore it, But of course, everybody was looking around. It was very distracting. And then I decided to incorporate it into my story about disruptiveness and about, being able to react to anything. So it was like, oh, there's fireworks going on. Let's listen to it. And everyone is listening. It's a lot of noise. But what do you do when you get disrupted by external factors? Do you let it influence, or shall we just continue? So I managed to keep the attention. And then I realized this is the first English speech that I'm doing. And I really wanted this English recording because the rest was Dutch. And then I realized that the recording would be, damaged by all these sounds. So I was really disappointed. And then I asked the editors and they said, no, I think we can edit out the outside sound. And they managed to do that. But now you have perfect sound, but you have people looking in all directions on the video, which is also weird. So I thought actually it was a disaster. And then afterwards, people came to me and they said, your example of how you dealt with this, it fits your story of the no excuses lady, of, the external circumstances, things you can and cannot influence. And apart from your story, the way you handle this inspired me so much that this is the highlight of the whole TEDx event. And I was like, wow. So instead of distracting from what I wanted to convey, it actually added to the message that I eventually want to convey. So in the end, whatever happens during a speech, it's always part of the added value that you can deliver.
Yeah, that story really reminds me of Tony Robbins' story. I'm a big Tony Robbins.
He has so many stories.
Oh, sorry. I've been to a lot of Tony Robbins events, and the one where he's saying, like, one of his first bigger seminars, he was doing it in a hotel that was by some railway tracks, and he says, like, oh, every so often a train went by and beeped its bell super loud, and this was also, he was trying to push through it, but you couldn't push through it because once every like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, there was like trains just blowing their steam because there was a siding nearby. So what he did, he made everyone like jump up and down like continuously, and now it's part of his every single event that they randomly drop the train bell because it like breaks the pattern, which is all about, he linked it to breaking the pattern, and that's Tony Robbins' whole thing is, break the pattern, make the change, and make people jump up and down, get them excited.
Yeah, so, and this is really not only a good speaker, but also a good entrepreneur and just a life skill that you should have. If shit happens, it happens, you can't stop the shit from happening, and you can try to stay away from it. And what I learned, if there's shit happening, you better dive in, because in this pile of shit is a present. And the sooner you find the present, the sooner you can move on, instead of trying to deny that there's a shitty smell, or, if shit happens, it happens.
If shit happens, dive in.
Yeah, and find the present in the shit, because there's always a present, whatever the situation is.
Cool. I like that. I like the metaphor. So is that the first time you used that metaphor, or do you use that one a lot?
I have used it before, and I also noticed in some some recordings that my pronunciation of the present sounds like also the present, you know, the present time. So sometimes people think, what does she mean? You mean your presence is in the shit?
Or it's the same pronunciation. It's the same pronunciation.
Yeah?
It's just context. Yeah, it's
Okay,
the same.
yeah.
Well, I think so anyway. I mean, I'm English, and my English is bad. My wife corrects all my English, and she's not a native speaker.
That's funny. Well,
But,
it
yeah,
also
she's
creates
the English expert.
It also creates some funny situations, of course, when you're not a native speaker. Sometimes you say something weird or funny, but it's all part of the deal, you know. It breaks the pattern, like you say, and you have some laughs or some confusion, and it's all part of the game.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. You know, sounds like you've had an amazing career in speaking. Can I ask you a bit about, how do you charge for it? You know, if someone comes to you and say, I want you to speak at my event, do you work out how big the event is, what they can afford, or do you have a set pricing model you've worked out over the many years? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, it's of course in Europe it's different from the US, but in the beginning I was doing a lot of speeches for free, just to get the practice. And I wouldn't say they're for free, but I would do it for example in exchange for a video recording of the speech. I would say, I'll come to your event, you don't have to pay me, but make sure I get a professional video recorded. And that's a good deal for both. Or I would ask, what is your budget? And sometimes they would say, well, we only have $100, and that's the sign they don't take you seriously. But then again, if it's an organization that you feel sympathy for, you can still do it. Also, I've been surprised that some event organizers say, oh, we only have 5,000 euros for this 15-minute speech. Would you, do it? And
My friend said that as well.
Okay. Yeah.
My friend said that he was looking for one of his first speeches. He reached out and he said, what's your budget? And they said, $2,500. And he just wanted some practice.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Great. So what I've learned, always ask, what is your budget? And some will ask, what is your fee? And then I would always mention a range. So I started off in Holland, the professional speakers start at 1,500 euros. And then, it grows 2,500, 3,000, 5,000, and it depends how famous you are. I think in the US, if you charge anything under $3,000 or $5,000, they don't even take you seriously. Because also in the US, usually it involves traveling, right? So if you give a speech, half-hour speech, it will take you a day of traveling. But the most important thing is before you start charging, that you need to have the feedback that your speech really provides the added value. And get videos recorded, because you can use those videos to compile demo video, but also you should watch them yourself and with other people to get feedback on your performance. And when you get videos of your speech, a lot of people have a video of themselves with the microphone. That's not what event organizers or speaker agencies are looking for. They want to see your interaction with the audience. They want to see you react to questions from the audience. They want to see your audience fascinated or laughing or intrigued. So make sure to have this interaction with the audience and also to capture it.
Well, they're amazing tips.
Good reviews, then you can start charging. But first you need to have, you need to be able to say you've done already like 100 speeches with this and this and this organization. These are your testimonials. Here's some video material, and then you can start charging like a professional speaker. And another tip, if they want to negotiate about your fee, because event organizers, they have to show their manager that they got a good deal, right? So instead of taking $100 or $500 off the price, what I tend to do is say, you know what, I'm going to be there already. So apart from my speech, I can also do a workshop, mini workshop. Or I can bring 100 books or 10 books and give them away to the audience. So it's good to offer something extra instead of, having a negotiation about the price.
That's an awesome tip as well. Like, adding value rather than discounting. And that's what we always do in sales as well. Discounting makes people think that you're not worth it. Whereas adding value is like, you are the most generous person. Yeah.
And the event organizer will go back to their manager and say, I've got this great deal. And that's what it's all about.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. Like, thank you for those tips. Cause I think anyone that wants to, make money out of speaking or enhance their current career by trying to leverage their skill set can definitely follow what you just shared to, to make money. And I think, everyone says, build a personal brand. And I never believe, I ignored that for maybe 5 years until I realized that some of my friends were getting these opportunities come to them just through, through speaking at events or through doing podcast appearances or things like that, that they wouldn't have got otherwise. Just like you said, people,
it's
things
true.
happening.
It's very important. And also what I just said, instead of discounting, offering something extra, it also applies to other types of business. For example, when I organize a writing retreat and I want to make a special offer to get more people, instead of saying you get a €500 discount, I say you get an extra one-on-one session with me before or after the event. So just offering extra value, it appeals to people. They feel special, plus you help them to achieve their goal. An extra session before or after a writing retreat makes the book better. So it's in both interests to do that. And it doesn't cost me anything except for an hour of my time.
And I'm sure it makes you feel even more fulfilled, like being able to help somebody one-on-one, because they're the best things. I find they're the best things, talking to somebody one-on-one, connecting and, actually helping them, because in the short amount of time, you can give so much value. As opposed to, I really
like doing that. I'm very there's a lot of scarcity because I cannot. Is it called scarcity?
Scarcity is fine.
Scarcity, yeah, I have to remember, because it takes a lot of energy working with somebody one-on-one. When I do those one-on-one sessions, I give my all, and my brain works at full speed, and I do give a lot of value. But it's not that I can do that 6 hours a day or even 3 hours a day. So there has to be some, for some people, they can also get the information that I give in a video. So right now I'm kind of consolidating everything that I've ever taught and everything I know into videos, that before I give a workshop or before I have a one-on-one call with somebody, I already can transfer all the knowledge and the content. And then the session I have will be more a question and answer session instead of me giving information. So I start noticing that I share a lot of the same tips over and over again. And now I'm recording all those tips. So I don't have to be the robot repeating those things, and I can focus on implementing it with people. How do you implement this information in your business or in your personal life?
Yeah, that's really good. And it was something I read recently as well that was talking about that, and talking about, teach something yourself over and over again until you get asked too many times that you can then turn it into a product. Because I think now too many people record products before they've actually given the values. So the product doesn't really hit the market in exactly the right way. So I think your way is perfect.
Right. And how do you know that something has value? If you notice yourself repeating it over and over again and people saying, that's a good tip. That's really an eye-opener for me. Then you have the diamonds. And if you collect all those diamonds, you have explosive material. When I do a webinar or a workshop, the feedback that I get often is people say, I've had a lot of coaches or I've done a lot of webinars, but you cut right through the essence. You start immediately delivering content instead of talking about what you're going to be sharing, what you're going to be selling. I just start giving content and tips and inspiration and added value. And I'm not afraid that it will ever run out or that I give away my best tips, because there's so much to share.
Yeah, and you're continuously learning and growing from everybody. So you're always learning and sharing. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what other businesses have you seen or heard about recently which have kind of captured your imagination? Because we all have all this, we always see shiny objects and we always think this would be a cool thing to do, but it's not necessarily what I would want to do. But have you seen anything recently that's really captured your imagination?
Well, there's so many things happening online, like really young businesses, tools, smart tools and apps, and everybody's using Trello right now and Slack and whatever. And I feel like I'm getting kind of old-fashioned. I prefer working with email because it's very linear and I know what's happening. And it's weird because my brain works not in a linear way, but with those communication things, I prefer linear, and then I can go in all the different directions otherwise. So yeah, and what we've been talking about in the beginning, like the cryptocurrency thing, I really, respect what is happening and I admire what people are doing, but it's really not my field of interest. I'm good at some things, I understand some things, and I've discovered the added value, and I'd rather focus on those things that are within my area of interest and expertise.
I mean, if you were excited about one thing and you thought I would do that, if I had more time, or if I wanted to create the time, because I guess, we always create time to do things that we actually really want to do. But is there anything at the moment that you thought like this would be the coolest thing?
Yeah, I'm actually doing it right now. So I'm collecting all my knowledge about a certain topic and putting it into a book and an e-course, videos about book writing, about living life as a location independent entrepreneur. Those are the main topics, but then related, of course, are visibility, personal branding, and all the things that go with that, free publicity, the things we've talked about, being a speaker. It's all related. So I'm starting to record modules, and then one day I hope to have a website where people can mix and match. Like I want to be an author and I want to do speaking and I want to live location independent, and then you put those modules together and you have your ideal course or information library, whatever you want to call it.
Cool. That's cool. Like a hub, and pick and choose what you want to build your ideal life, like one brick at a time. Cool.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I feel also that I'm kind of consolidating, all the years of experience and work and added value I've created to find a way to transfer that when I'm not doing it myself or when I'm not there, or to make it accessible to people. And it's also like a legacy, that I've created, and now I have to make it visible and make it tangible instead of everything being in my mind.
Yeah. And you've done so much already, and I know you've got a lot more to do. I mean, I know all the subjects that we've kind of dived into during this talk. We probably could have talked about 2 hours on every single one of the separate ones.
We've done pretty well, I think.
Yeah, dive through a life. So I know you mentioned soon that it's your birthday soon, and I know you're running a like you describe it, something really, really special for your 50th birthday.
Yeah, I thought turning 50, I want to celebrate the journey that I've made, but I also want to see if I can contribute to other people's journey. So I thought, what can I do? In these times of Corona, I cannot organize a physical party. And apart from that, all my friends are all over the world. So I decided to give away my best work. So I'm giving away books, workshops, one-on-one sessions, even a no excuses tattoo for somebody who feels really drawn to the no excuses philosophy. And I've made it really easy. So you can just sign up for either an area that you're interested in and I pick a gift for you, or you can sign up for a specific gift. You can just go to estherjacobs.info/birthday. And there you have all the 50 gifts I'm giving away during 50 days. So until somewhere end of July. My actual birthday is June 28th. So I think I'll do something special then. And anybody, if you want to share the link with somebody, feel free. Sharing is caring. estherjacobs.info/birthday. And by doing that, you'll be joining my birthday party, and you'll join in sharing my legacy, inspiration, my best work. And if you can shine, if you can be inspired and learn, get something from that, and then pay it forward, then I think it's the best 50th birthday I could imagine.
Yeah, that's an amazing gift for anyone that's listening and also anyone that follows you. So I encourage anyone to go sign up at estherjacobs.com/birthday.
.info,
/info, sorry. Oh no, .info/birthday.
It's good that you say that, because a lot of people make that mistake, because .info is a weird URL, but .nl and .com were already taken. So I went for .info. So it's
Who's got estherjacobs.com? Have you tracked them down?
Yeah, it's a Dutch lady, a coach in the south of the Netherlands. And for 25 years, she's been getting most traffic through my exposure. And if she gets an email from me, she always forwards it. And it's actually a funny story. I Googled once, there were 3 Esther Jacobses. And I decided to do an Esther Jacobs get-together. So they came from all parts of the Netherlands, and we met somewhere in the middle for a dinner.
Yeah.
And just a coincidence, all three of us arrived at the same time in the restaurant. So we said we made a reservation, and the host said, okay, you made a reservation, what name? And all three of us said, Esther Jacobs. And he looked and was like, okay, let's just ignore this. So it's a funny thing. There's a few Esther Jacobses, but there's only one estherjacobs.info.
Yeah, the best one. Well, thanks for coming, Esther, and thanks for being a guest on my podcast. And yeah, I'll let you know when this goes live. So anything else you want to say to the listeners before we close?
No excuses.
No excuses. So yeah, thank you, Esther. Thank you for coming on the Location Independent Startup Show. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again, hopefully in the next few months once we can travel around the world.
Great. Thanks.